When things go wrong as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you. Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm your moderator, Omar Dunlap, and today we're discussing a very important topic. The topic of tawakkul, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the negative effects of not relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have with us today Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
And we have, of course, our studio audience, as always. Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Mamdouh, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you and give the audience your time for your 10-minute reflection.
Thank you. The concept of reliance, it's integral part of the belief of the Muslims. And this has to be connected with La ilaha illallah. There is no God except Almighty Allah. It's part of believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most capable and the Almighty, and He's the only one who nourishes the human beings, that Razzaq. Right? So part of it is relying upon Him. Because if you rely upon any other one else, that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His abilities and His attributes and His qualities do not provide you with this. It's an indirect attack to Almighty Allah. It's not clear attack, but it's obvious that the person would say to Almighty Allah, I'm not going to depend on you simply because Allah is not perfect. This is the hidden message when we rely upon something else than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, the Islamic way of relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is represented in this statement, aqilha wa tawakkal. Aqilha wa tawakkal is that tie up your camel in the right place and then rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, when you see this statement, say that do your part and rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't rely upon Allah and sit at home and say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give me sustenance. And even if you call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it happened at the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he found a person sitting in the mosque and he spent long time asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him sustenance. Allahumma arzuqni, Allahumma arzuqni, Allahumma arzuqni. This famous story is very significant. Umar ibn Khattab came and told and hit him and disciplined him. He said that if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you sustenance, if you really want to rely upon Allah, go and do your work. And this is very beautifully and clearly explained in the famous hadith of tawakkul that says that if you really depend upon Allah, if you really rely upon Allah, you will be like the birds. They go out from their homes, from their nests in the morning with empty stomachs. And they come back in the afternoon, the evening, with full stomachs. And here, the hadith is significant that you do your job as the birds. They go out from their homes, from their nest. They leave the nest and they start searching for the food here and there and this area and look for water and look for food. And by the end of the day, definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the sustenance because they did their part. Then they rely upon Allah. Even the birds rely upon Allah. And this is a lesson. Unfortunately, lots of us listen to it, but in application, we don't trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unfortunately, some of the Muslims, they do that. They say it by tongue because it's easier to say it by tongue. I trust Allah. I rely upon Allah. But in reality, you ask him, oh, you have 1 or 2 children. Why don't you get more? He said that it's the poverty that I'm living in. I don't have enough money. You said that you rely upon Allah. And it is Allah who taught you that this issue is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just rely upon Him. And the verses of the Quran tell you that. Even if you are poor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you sustenance and will give your coming baby sustenance. And if you are afraid to be poor, min khashyat imlaq, the verse says that even if you are afraid that you may be poor after you get extra children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give sustenance to your children and will give sustenance to you. Okay, now if you trust Allah and you rely upon Him, but in reality you don't do the things that show, that prove that you rely upon Allah. You rely upon Allah by your tongue only, which is, of course, this is not the essence of reliance. The essence of reliance is that whenever you do something, right, it's a reflection, it's a proof, it's an evidence of what you say by your tongue. As we know that the definition of Iman is مَا وَقَرَ فِي الْقَلْبِ وَصَدَّقُهُ الْعَمَلِ. So the acts should go with what you have in your heart or what you have on your tongue. So the tongue, the saying, the heart should be deeply affected by that, and the actions should prove that what you believe in and what you say by your tongue is actual reliance. A lot of people, unfortunately, they believe others than Allah. They believe a scholar or someone or an educated person or a media person or a spokesman or someone who would say that, okay, let's do it that way because, and he will give you 20, 30, 40 lessons and benefits. Of course, this is not true because it's either you trust him or you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an issue, this issue is related basically to the issue of Tawheed. Lots of us don't focus on the concept of Tawheed or the concept of Aqeedah. We don't give it its due rights. We need to focus on this. And all of us, unfortunately, again, you'll find talk about the Prophet ﷺ spent 13 years in Mecca teaching the companions Aqeedah and the Creed and the Tawheed. But in reality, we don't do it with our kids. Yes, the lesson that we benefit from this is that we should spend with ourselves, with our children, with our family members, with the people whom we have contacts, with the children at school. Whenever we have contacts with others, we need to live some time, spend some time on explaining these essential things. Once you have them well established, it becomes very difficult to shake them or any other force to shake them. But if the foundation is shakeable, it will be shakeable. You cannot get this foundation to be established well unless you spend the right time to plant these concepts in the brain of the Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ did it. And in the previous episode, we talked about that emulating the Prophet ﷺ and following the Prophet ﷺ. So we should do the same thing. What is happening nowadays, you would find that children or young people, or people in general, they take some input from the Quran or from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but they take plenty of inputs from other sources. What happens is that this foundation is not established or founded well. And the scholars say that it's very simple to understand this. If you have a glass of water and you want to pour from it, it will pour water. If you have a glass of juice, when you pour from it, you will pour juice. If you have a glass of wine and you want to pour from it, you will pour wine because it is full of that substance. This is the same thing applies to our brains. We are the product of our brains. What is the input telling us? If the input that we have is dominated by the Quran and the Sunnah, that means we have more input from the Quran and the Sunnah, in addition to other inputs, this whenever we act or react, we react according to the Quran and the Sunnah. Very simple form. If the input is to us is Michael Jordan, our output will be what? Basketball playing. If it is Michael Jackson, it will be singing and dancing. Right? If it is the Quran and Sunnah, we will be behaving like the Prophet ﷺ. Very simple logic every human being knows. And now when we are bringing up our children, we expose them to lots of inputs. The result is when they behave, sometimes they behave Islamically, and 20 times they behave un-Islamically because of the input that they got. We expose our kids to the video games, we expose our kids to the TVs, not everything there is good, of course. We expose them to lots of inputs that may sound to them or look to them very attractive. We are the ones who cause fitna to them.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, Dr.
do.
Mamdouh, and we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. You're watching Let's Talk.
Earth, the human heart, greed, exploitation, hatred, all diseases of the heart. For the cure, join Huda TV every Sunday at 20 GMT for Moments for the Heart.
Bismillah, welcome back to Let's Talk. Today we're discussing the topic of tawakkul, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going to take a look now at some questions that we've asked our fellow Muslims. We asked them what are some causes of stress in the life of Muslims today. So we're going to take a look at their answers and see what they had to say, inshallah.
In my opinion, the causes of stress in Muslim life is because they did not live in the Islamic way, not according to the Quran and Sunnah. So if they live in the living of the Prophet Muhammad, I think there will not be stress at all. Because our Quran and Sunnah tell us to do what to do and to do not what to not to do, okay?
There are many effects. Maybe will be effect to the student. They will be hard in their life, or maybe they will their life will be miserable. So they have to prevent the stress.
There are many negative effects of stress. First, we will suffer from hard life because if we cannot manage our stress, we can't do our job properly.
I think the major cause of stress in Muslims' lives today is because Muslims have neglected the way of life profiled by Islam. Islam is a comprehensive religion that contributes to various aspects of life. So it has laid down the proper way by which a Muslim can live a proper life. So Muslims have neglected this way of life that Islam has perfected. So that is why they experience stress in their life.
Well, I think the causes of stress, people are not determining the priority of the things that they should do, what's first and what's second. This could be a reason. Another reason, people care about work and getting money. I think this is all what they care about. That's why they work harder, and they don't care about anything else but working. And I think the more they work, the more they find themselves need to work again. So everything these days is going towards getting money. So I think this is the major reason for this, I think.
Okay, well that was very interesting. I particularly like the answer of the last person who was asked a question. He said that people find themselves in sort of a cycle. You know, they feel like they need to make money, and so they focus on that. So they work these long hours, but then they feel they need to make more money, so they need to work more and more. And they work, they work very hard, and they start becoming stressed at the work, the amount of work, the level or the difficulty of the work, and so on. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I think this is something common answer from an average person. When he or she would say that we need money, the question is, do you really need more money? Why more? And what is the extent that after this I will not going to get more money? Nobody has this answer. There is no limit for our ambitions and for our eagerness. A human being should know that there is no end for that. And as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said that had a human being had a valley full of gold, he would ask for another one. He would wish for another one. Why are we so much indulged in this dunya? I'm working hard day and night. The money I get and the way I use it is just to change my four-wheel car into a better car. It's already four-wheel car. What else do you want? And then people just, the satisfaction is not there. Why do you want more money? Just to change, you have 2 suits, you want to make them 10. And when you get them 10, you said, no, I need more. I want them to be 20. And when you get there, you need them to be 50. It does not end. It does not end. If you leave yourself to go with the flow, as they say, right? If you go with the flow, this would be the end. You have to go with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you. Yes, it may be difficult in the beginning, but this is not reality. The difference between a rich person and a poor person, both of them eat. But one of them eats different types of food. And even if you find that the banquet that he has may have 30 types of dishes in front of him or her, but he's not pleased. The following day, right, he wants something different. A poor person who is pleased with what he had, he thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's happy even to live on the same dish for a month, for 2, for 3 months. What is different? Alhamdulillah, I'm eating. Yes, some people are doing other things and getting better situations, but it's impossible that all human beings would be on the same level. It's next to impossible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this life and made it like this. If you understand this, so you would be very pleased in your heart. You depend upon Allah. You rely upon Allah. You do your work, but don't kill yourself in your work. You have other important things to do. You were created mainly to worship Almighty Allah, not to make money for the sake of making money. You make money for the sake of pleasing Allah, using it in the proper way. Right. I think people, when they know these things, alhamdulillah, they become very comfortable. And this is the difference between a Muslim who is comfortable and relaxed and who would all the time say, why should I worry? Yeah, one time, I tell you a personal story. I was in the hospital after having a 5 bypass operation. And my supervisor visited me, and she was trying to comfort me. She said, oh God, why me? I said, oh God, why not me? She said that this sounds odd. I said, maybe odd to you, but for me, I'm very pleased with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me. Had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given me the opportunity to select between items or choices, I would have selected what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had selected, because I believe and I trust that He's all-knowing and He's all-wise and He knows much better than me. So He selected for me the best option for me. Otherwise, He is not God. She said that this is so beautiful. I've never heard something similar to this, like that. I said, simply because I am a Muslim. I know my Lord very well, so I submit myself to Him, even if He selects something that may sound or look bad for me, but the essence of it is not.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Now, one of the things they said is that a cause of stress is not living in the Islamic way. So what is it in Islam that gives people contentment?
Yes. As I said, that when you begin with La ilaha illallah and you know all the attributes of this God, and you know that whatever you do in this life, you cannot exceed the amount of sustenance or risk that He's going to give you. It's distributed throughout your life. But no matter what you do, you are not going to get more than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has assigned for you. And you know that it will never happen that there would be a mistake that what is going to come to you would go to another person. If you trust these things, so you feel comfortable. What you take is the best that you can do. You have to do and work hard, but I said that within the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It should not be at the expense of other essential things. And in this way you feel comfortable. My friend already got a Mercedes, let him buy a Mercedes. I am very pleased with my Hyundai. This is not an advertisement for Hyundai, by the way. So I am very pleased with it. I can live with it until I die. I have no problem with it. I just love it. What's the difference between the two of them? Right. Stronger air condition. You run quickly and you will be violating the traffic law. I don't know what is the difference. Just little more comfort. But the two of them are doing the two things. They take you from point A to point B. That's basically, if you see that, why would I do that? Why would I spend more time looking for some work or doing some work? And that work I can do much better than this if I save this time and use it in the proper way. I use it in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I help other people. I sit with my family members to educate them. I can do much better things than just getting money. And not that. I am doing this because I know how to do a good investment. I'm investing my time and my money with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Very good.
So I know that how I can get millions and millions and millions of hasanat when I invest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. When I invest with any bank, I know that I get 5% maximum, or with this economic crisis you get much lower than this, even you lose your money. So I know my job well because I have learned how to worship Allah. I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quite good. Nobody can shake my belief in Him. And I wish that every viewer would benefit from this.
Oh, very good. Well, we have a question from our audience now. Go ahead, brother.
Out of our problems, and as life has captured us with its evidence, its fascinating things, really our reliance on Allah has become decreased. We are suffering from this. We want to increase our reliance on Allah. But how?
Thank you for this question. I think it's very simple for me at least. The way you do it is that you go through a test. You pass the test. So you should become stronger than before. You go to another test. So you become stronger and you rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more. When we go through the Quran, we find the stories of the previous nations and the stories of the previous messengers and prophets of Almighty Allah. And we learn from them. And this is one of the wisdoms why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned these stories to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to confirm or to firm the belief in his heart. So by listening to a story, getting the lesson from it, so you would trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every human being knows that, or almost the adults at least, they know that fire burns. We trust this fact, right? It's not necessary for me to put my finger in fire, right, in order to know that it does this. But the same token, and even much more, stronger than this, more confidence in Allah, I rely upon Allah because I know Him. When I read the story of Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when I know that he was commanded by Almighty Allah to leave her in the desert with her newborn child, Ismail. She was left alone with a new baby. Right? The situation was very critical, was very difficult. And the way she looked at it is the way an average Muslim should look at it. The only legitimate question that she asked Ibrahim alayhi salam, She asked him, did Allah command you to do that? He said, yes. Her answer was the most beautiful answer. And we need to learn the answer and we need to apply it. I trust Allah. He will never fail us. He will definitely help us. And 100% trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the desert, no human being, no technology, no airplanes. Apparently, it's quite obvious that nobody can save her. Her husband is leaving. She is left with the beasts. She is left with no humans. She is left with no water. And she trusted Allah that He's going to do all that. This is the level of trust that we need to reach. He did it to Hajar. He did it to Ismail. He did it to Ibrahim. He did it to Muhammad. He does it for everyone. Just trust Him. Test Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by this. If you've gone through an experience, it worked very well. Oh, this is your Lord. That's why we worship Him. We don't worship anyone else because we trust Him. We know that He's capable. When we say that Allah is Al-Qawi, we know that He's capable of doing this. Otherwise, what does it mean to us? So this is the trust. I am quite sure that it will happen. He promised that the sun will come from the east. And every day in the morning, we see that it's coming from the east. No power can change it. And He's the same one who promised us that the sun one day will come from the west. We trust that one day it will come from the west. Even if the collective experience of human beings, all human beings together, has never witnessed the sun coming from the west. But we Muslims trust Allah that it will come from the west. Right? So, by developing this relationship with Almighty Allah, we rely more and more and more upon Him. And we have to understand that this is the nature of the life that we live in. It's full of series of tests and tribulations and trials. We know that. It's part of our life. So if we know that, these things we take them easier than other people, alhamdulillah. And this is the meaning of we are Muslims. We submit our desires, our brains, our intentions to Almighty Allah. We are your servants. Do whatever you want to do to us. Just select. You want us to get at 5 o'clock in the morning to do the prayer? We are going to do that. You want us to get at 2 o'clock? We are going to get 2 o'clock. You want us to fast Ramadan? We're going to fast Ramadan. Whatever you want, I'm going to submit myself to you. That's it. We made the contract with Him that we are going to submit to Him. We signed the contract, and every day we sign it again and again and again in our prayer when we witness that there is no God but Almighty Allah. Every day we renew the contract with Almighty Allah. So we're quite sure of what we're doing. We are conscious of what we're doing. And alhamdulillah, we are relying upon Him.
Very good. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll have to get to your question at the end of the show, inshallah. We'll have another chance for that. But for right now, we're going to take a break, so don't go anywhere. You're watching Let's Talk.
The true life of the Muslim starts at death. If you wish to enhance your knowledge of the Islamic perspective on the hereafter, this life doesn't go on forever, but we do so little to prepare for it because most of us don't know what happens after this life ends. If you want to be amongst those who know, then join us every Saturday at 1930 GMT for the inevitable journey.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Let's Talk. Today we're discussing the topic of tawakkul. We have with us, of course, Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
And then we have with us now Muhammad Mamdouh. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's getting confusing everywhere on the studio today with this. Okay, so Brother Muhammad, you're a teacher, correct, here in Egypt, teaching English or everything?
English.
All subjects. Okay, English. Very good. And you've been sitting by listening to the topic of tawakkul, and I just want want you to tell us just in general, how do you understand tawakkul, and what do you think about what we've said so far?
I think definitely the first part of the lecture and the talk about doing your part, that the doctor mentioned, doing your part, and then having tawakkul is an important part of tawakkul. What I wanted to focus on was the hadith of Prophet ﷺ that said that get to know Allah in your downtime, in your relaxed time, and He will know you during emergencies, because that's when you really need Him. Okay, so you have all this downtime during the day, and downtime is really just when you're relaxed during the day, and that's almost all the day. So if you get to know Allah by getting to know Him, by praying, by keeping Him in your mind, saying Subhanallah, just the adhkar that are known, then during that emergency, Allah will know you because you have gotten to know Him. And that leads to tawakkul, knowledge, is that you can't have this tawakkul
yeah. So for example, know Allah when you are rich. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know you.
Exactly.
When you are poor, when you need Him. Know Allah when you have the power, when you are strong, when you are healthy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you support when you are unhealthy or when you are sick.
When you are sick, yeah, exactly. And the other thing I wanted to say was the patience. Having patience during time of an emergency. Don't just say, I've made tawakkul, why hasn't anything happened yet? That patience is a virtue, as they say, that is وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, that people that are patient in times of hardships and good times. So that is also goes hand in hand, I feel, with tawakkul.
Actually, there's a hadith, I believe, I remember reading, where the Prophet ﷺ said, and it's part of a longer hadith, but he said that victory comes with patience. Yeah. So like if you're patient, then that means the troubles, inshallah, if you're patient, they will end. Yeah. You will have, the good time will come, or at least an easier thing will replace that, inshallah.
That's why in many verses in the Quran, I think the word sabr was mentioned about 44 times in the Quran. And وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا. Nobody can get paradise except those who have been patient. So it's part of life. We know it. It's part of life. And that's why some scholars say that this life can be divided into two sections. One section is shukr, thanking, and the other one is patience. You can divide everything that happens to you into one of these categories. Either thanking Allah by praying, by doing all this, and having patience. Nobody can live this life without patience.
That's very good. Actually, I feel from what we've discussed so far that tawakkul is one of the necessary elements that will really bring peace to somebody's life. I mean, so many people these days are stressed. I mean, we're stressed out in these modern times, and I feel like tawakkul is maybe the only solution. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that we're missing as a people, is because that we are not putting this faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That
or we are not putting it in action. We don't do it in reality. You see, if the Muslim every day when he leaves his place, his home, he would say that Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah. I rely upon Allah. I don't know what's going to happen, the amount of risk I'm going to get, the amount of hardships that I'm going to. I need the support of Allah during that day. If you practice it every day, in other words, if you put it into action and you live it and you remember saying this, you will have very strong relationship between you and Almighty Allah, and it will enhance your tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Does tawakkul make life easier?
Oh yeah, of course. That's why this is the difference between a Muslim who is mutawakkil ala Allah and how he accepts hardships in life. You see, the Muslim who relies upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way he or she interprets things is totally different from other people. This is how I see things as a Muslim, because I rely upon Him. I know that there is nothing in my hand except do my part. The rest is in the hand of Allah. I rely upon Him and I accept whatever decision He takes.
It's hard for a lot of people to give up control, that they feel they need to be in control of something in order for it to happen in the best way. And that's why it's hard for people to just let go and give themselves to their Creator.
The people who are materialistic love to rely upon something that's materialistic. They love to have some amount of money in their banks so that whenever a problem happens, whenever a problem rises, so they will use that amount of money. The Muslim thinks in a different way. I may keep some money in my bank, but whenever there is an opportunity that I use some of my money for fi sabilillah, in solving the problems of other people as charity, and solving the problems in Iceland and the problem of the people after tsunami. Yes, this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, مَا نَقَصَ مَالٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ. No money would decrease out of charity. So if you pay some charities, your money will not decrease. I mean, who can believe this? If you look at it by your eyes, yes, it will decrease. I had $1 million, I paid $500,000, so what is left is $500,000, materialistically. But you don't know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would do to you. You don't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you barakah in your things. You buy a car, and it may stay with you for 20 years and no accident and nothing happens to it. And your friend buys a car, and after 2 months it has an accident and he has to change it. And so he spends his money in issues, right? However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps your money in a different way. So a Muslim knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does it in different ways that we don't understand, but we trust that He does this for us.
What I want to ask, or rather comment on, is a point that you made. You said it's very difficult for people to let go of control. And this is something that's really interesting because, myself, I'm coming from this Western mentality that the highest level someone could hope to achieve is to be some sort of shrewd and successful businessman who accomplished everything by his own. This really is the highest ideal that's glorified, in the media and things over there. While in fact the Islamic narrative is actually the exact opposite. It's saying that control is an illusion. Yes. And if you try to hold on to it, it's going to cause you so much grief. I think of it like you're on a bicycle, right? When you're on a bicycle, you want to hold on to the handlebars because if you let go, you think it's going to go in the ditch or you're going to go off into the traffic or something. But in the Islamic perspective of things, it's when you let go that you're guaranteed success. It's very different than what we tend to think. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, and I think also that people give this impression of free, like if you are not free to do what you want, that you have given yourself to a higher power, for example, that you are not free to do whatever you want. When in reality, it's the exact opposite. If you don't give yourself up to Allah, that you are in fact enslaved by the material things on this earth. And if you hope to achieve in foreign countries, for example, this high state, and you're always trying to get more and rely on your hard work and rely on your knowledge and not relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you end up losing so much in this life and in the hereafter. Even if you don't believe in the hereafter, and you're in just this life, even this life takes turns. So even if you're at the top, eventually in this life, you'll get to the bottom. So you've lost out in here and in the hereafter. So as Muslims, we want to benefit in this world and in the hereafter. And that is the only way to get it.
Relying upon hard work only. Let me give you the example of Bill Gates, for example. When he joined the university, he joined it definitely with hundreds of other students, and they began the same beginning. They were in the same class. However, after some time, he diverted from it. The other continued, and perhaps they did much harder work than he did. Some of them became professors in the university. However, this was not the case with him. He took a diversion from that, and then he started his own business, and he became the richest person in the world. They did more effort than him. But there is something else in addition to the effort. There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who gives people sustenance, and He gives people this amount of money, not because of they are hard workers. Perhaps the hard workers may be the doctors or engineers in any country, perhaps, or the workers.
Construction workers.
Or the construction work. However, the richest people in the world are not the doctors or are not the engineers. Right? Yeah. And people need to reflect upon this. What is going on? Muslims know the answer.
So there are many people in the world who maybe they don't work that hard, but you find they're very wealthy.
Yeah, that's it.
And you'll find many people, they work very hard and they don't have that much.
I tell you a story, a small story that had been told to me, narrated to me by a friend in Saudi Arabia. Told me that they used to buy a big piece of land and to divide it into pieces, so each one would take one piece for him. You know that when there's a large piece of land, everyone wants the one in the corner because it has two streets, right? So that because the possibility of selling it for high prices, is much more than the possibility of selling one inside the land. There's one person who used to say that, okay, they call him, so everybody would go in that time, so everybody would, have the opportunity to select his piece of land. He used to say, no. I'm going to stay at home, let everybody select. And the last one, I want to take it. Yes. And he swore by Allah that in two similar cases, that when he takes his piece of land, it was the first land to be sold to other people.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, because there's something that you can use your mind, you can use brain, but here's a good use of but. You have to know that there is Almighty Allah who controls this world. Right. So you do your part. However, there's something extra.
I think that if someone starts to rely on something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they put that thing in danger of being lost.
Yes.
I mean, this is from my own experience. Anything I ever started trusting in and being so happy with this thing or this job that I was doing or this goal that I had, I lost it. Yes. Almost every time. It wasn't until I started really accepting the concept of tawakkul and that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants will happen, that suddenly the doors began to open and things became easier. Do we have the same experience?
Oh, yeah, I think every Muslim does.
Yeah, I think so. So you have that.
Even if you don't realize of tawakkul, that's that's where you need to be doing. You realize that practice is not a good practice because you see how the side effects of it, the negative side effects of it. Just even if you're not returning back to Allah, you see that this is a bad way. So then you start searching, and if you don't go in that direction of Allah, then you're still doing that same practice, negative consequence.
The happiness that the heart gets after relying upon Allah, when you exercise the reliance upon Allah, is much, much, much greater than the gains that you get. You just feel happy, you feel satisfied, and that's why you feel very comfortable with whatever happens. This feeling, I think, if we can sell it for people, we can get billions of dollars, I think. And that's why some people said that to the kings, if the kings know the amount of happiness that we have because we know Allah and we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would have fought us for this happiness, to take this happiness from us. Right. So we want to keep our happiness in our heart by making the reliance and tawakkul upon Allah.
Very well. Well, we have like maybe 2 minutes left, and I want to ask one last question to both of you. There's probably some people watching right now, and they say, well, that sounds really good. Sign me up. How can I get that unshakable tawakkul that you're talking about? So we'll start with you, and then we'll end with you, inshallah.
You can look at this from 2 points of view. One point of view is a psychological barrier. You have this psychological barrier that you can't, give yourself up for something just because, you fear the unknown, perhaps. And this psychological barrier, if you go to a doctor, they might, if you're scared of, for example, snakes, even if they're not dangerous, the not dangerous ones, right? They'll put you in a box with snakes so you can get over that fear. So you need to try it, kind of jump in and try it to see the actual effects. And so this is one of the things that you actually have to do. You actually just have to do it.
Testing the concept.
Test it out. You have to jump in there, take away that mental block and barrier and actually try it to see its benefits.
Very good. What do you think?
Yeah. I think the person who wants to sign up will tell him that put it to test. This is in brief. Put it to test and try it and see whether it works or not, and see the effect that will happen to you. When you test it many times and you see that it's working, so it's working. Nothing works except what works. So if it works, why not? Why do you reject it? And a lot of people, they try to test it, and then still do you trust Allah and you rely upon Him? He said yes. The moment, as you just mentioned that in your life, that the moment that you started trusting Allah, the moment that you started, these things that used to happen to you stopped happening to you, right? Your concern about losing a job that you used to lose before, it didn't happen. Why? What had happened to you is that you had more reliance upon Almighty Allah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the people who rely on Him.
Oh yeah,
and I think He'll reward them, for that.
Allah loves the people who rely upon Him. Why? Because this is the essence of ibadah. You know Him, you trusted Him, you trusted His attribute that He is capable of doing everything. So when you do this, when you exercise this, Allah loves you. Because this shows the degree of iman that you have in your heart.
And it shows that you have the correct understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well.
It also shows that, and if, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us in a way that we sin so we can repent, so we know that He is the forgiver, the most merciful, so we can see His mercy. So He also made us with these, everything on earth is not perfect. Nothing on earth is perfect. So we can see that He is the only perfect one. And then we can appreciate that, and we can put our trust in something that is perfect, something that is not, that will end, and that is imperfect. So this is one of the other ways.
Well, this is very profound, but unfortunately we're up against the break, so we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Let's Talk.
So this is an open invitation for everybody to recognize God and enjoy His blessings in this life and His mercy in this life and in the hereafter as well. Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Each name has a meaning. Each name signifies a nature of Allah the Almighty which no one shares or is compared to Allah in it.
Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Let's Talk. Today we're discussing the topic of tawakkul. I hope you've caught the whole show because it was really beneficial and really interesting. But now we're going to go to our audience, inshallah, and see if they have any questions for our guests. Go ahead, brother.
First of all, I want to thank you for this vital topic, and actually we need it now. But Dr. Mandoor, there are some situations that we are forced to rely on some people to get a job or something like that, and I feel grief for this. So how can I rely on Allah completely? And the atmosphere is very bad, and I'm forced to rely on some people to get a job. How can I free myself from rely on favoritism?
Okay.
And rely also on some people?
I think this is a very practical question. People do not understand that there is no contradiction in this issue. You rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is something in your heart. So, for example, right, I graduated from that school, and everybody tells you that you need to, the first step, as it's written in the book, that you prepare 25 resumes and send them 25 copies of your resume and send them to all these big companies. This is step number one. Yes, which is practically, yes. This is included and embedded in doing your part. You have to do this. But when you do this, you know that you're not going to get this job because you wrote the most wonderful resume that you You have to write it in the nice way. You have to pay other people, yes, to do it for you, because you get the expertise of other people. And this is the part you're supposed to do, right? But you need to know that you are fully competent and fully sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will select this job for you or not this job for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not make any one of your resume work. You try it after 6 months, doesn't work again. You know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give me the permission to get to work now. This is the response. I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided something for me. It's not happening because it's not in the decision of Allah. Allah did not decide. Allah did not select this. This is how you interpret things. When you go to people, when you contact your relatives, when you go to people, yes, you need to do that. But when you go to the person who is a CEO, don't have it in your heart that he is the one who is going to give you the job. Exactly the similar situation when you go to a doctor. When you go to a doctor, he prescribes a medicine for you. You take the medicine, you go to the pharmacist, and he gives you the medicine. When you take the medicine, you know that this is not the medicine that's going to cure you. You understand that this medicine is a tool, and this person is a tool, and the resume that you wrote is a tool. All these are tools, and we call them soldiers of Allah. وَلِلَّهِ جُنُودُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. You don't see them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses everything as a tool. He is testing you, whether your heart is with the resume or with Allah. Whether your heart is with the person that you visited to give you the job or with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't care about the person. I know that he is a tool in the hand of Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give me a job in that place, He will give it to me. No matter what I do. But I have to do my part. I cannot stay at home and I say that I know that I trust Allah and He will give me the job. Which job? You have to go and apply and visit and make contacts and make search on the internet and do the maximum. And even if you do the maximum, you are sure that if Allah doesn't want to give it to you, He will not give it to you. This is the relationship. You have to do this part. But you have to understand that Allah is beyond this. He is the best planner.
Very good. That was a very good answer as usual, but unfortunately that's all the time we have for today. I wish we could take more questions. I'm sure they wish they could ask more questions, but maybe for the next episode, inshallah ta'ala. And we hope that it's benefited our viewers. But unfortunately we have to end the show, so we'll see you next time, inshallah ta'ala, here on Let's Talk. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt.